Hello everybody. In today's video, we're diving into an absolutely absurd adventure that shows what happens when arrogance meets intelligence. You're about to witness how a complacent journalist's attempt to ambush Melania Trump backfired spectacularly when Barron Trump stepped in. Trust me, the outcome of this one will leave you stunned. So here's what happened. A seasoned reporter thought he had the perfect plan to embarrass Melania Trump in front of New York's elite at a charity gala. But he didn't count on one thing: Barron Trump's razor-sharp wit and Harvard-educated intellect. The New York City charity gala was packed with the usual suspects: elite socialites, eager journalists, and cameras everywhere. Michael Reynolds from The Daily Progressive had spent weeks planning his viral moment. He had 3 hidden cameras strategically placed, a social media team on standby, and a list of loaded questions designed to provoke an emotional response. He even had the hashtag #MelaniaExposed ready to go viral. When Melania and Barron Trump arrived, Reynolds couldn't hide his smug smile. He'd already made his name with hit pieces on conservative women, and this was going to be his masterpiece. But as he approached with his fake smile and rolling cameras, he didn't notice Barron quietly pulling up his Twitter history on his phone, a digital trail of personal attacks on conservative women that would soon come back to haunt him. "Mrs. Trump," Reynolds began, live streaming to his 500,000 followers. "As someone who's benefited from America's opportunities, how do you respond to accusations that you've pulled up the ladder behind you?" The crowd tensed, cameras turned, and Reynolds smiled, thinking he had his viral moment. But then Barron stepped forward, all 6'7" of him towering over the journalist's 5'8" frame. What happened next would make journalism history. Reynolds instinctively took a step back as Barron's shadow loomed over him, but tried to maintain his composure. "I'm conducting an interview with your mother," he said, his voice slightly higher than intended. Barron's face broke into a knowing smile that made the journalist's stomach churn. The crowd sensed the shift in dynamics and pulled out their phones. This wasn't going to be the viral moment Reynolds had planned. "Interesting approach to journalism," Barron said, his voice carrying across the now silent room. "Let me pull up something from your Twitter last week." He held up his phone, displaying Reynolds' tweet calling conservative women traitors to their gender. "Tell me, do you always mask your misogyny as progressive values, or is that just for special occasions?" The journalist's face reddened as muffled laughter erupted from the crowd. Reynolds tried to regain control, turning back to Melania. "Your son's interruption proves my point about privilege," he said, but Barron cut him off with surgical precision. "Privilege? Like your privilege of selectively editing interviews to ruin careers?" He pulled up another tweet. "Or your privilege of mocking immigrant accents while pretending to champion diversity?" The crowd's phones were all recording now, capturing every moment of the journalist's growing discomfort. "This is about your mother's role in..." Reynolds started again, but Barron wasn't finished. "My mother's role? You mean the multilingual immigrant advocate who's raised millions for children's charities?" Barron took another step forward, his Harvard law training evident in his measured tone. "Or did your research team miss those facts while they were crafting hit pieces?" The journalist's hands were visibly shaking as he tried to check his notes. He hadn't prepared for this, for a calm, collected Barron systematically dismantling his carefully planned attack. "The public has a right to know," he began, but Barron interrupted with a smile that sent chills down his spine. "The public has a right to real journalism, not your performative activism masquerading as reporting." Melania watched with quiet pride as her son controlled the room. She recognized Donald's strategic mind combined with her own grace under pressure. Reynolds, now sweating under the bright lights and Barron's steady gaze, desperately searched for an escape route. But Barron was just warming up, and the ultimate humiliation was about to begin. Barron casually scrolled through his phone, each click making Reynolds more nervous. "Let's discuss your recent article about toxic masculinity in politics," Barron said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Written the same week you were caught harassing female interns at your network." The crowd gasped as Barron displayed screenshots of internal complaints. "Tell me, is harassment a job requirement at the Daily Progressive?" Reynolds tried to deflect. This is about the Trump family's impact on... But Barron cut him off again. Our impact? Like my mother's literacy programs that your network refused to cover? His voice remained calm, but his eyes locked onto Reynolds like a predator. Or perhaps you'd prefer to discuss your network's fundraising gala, where you auctioned off private jet trips while lecturing others about climate change. You're trying to distract from the real issues, Reynolds stammered, his earlier confidence fading. Barron's response was lightning fast. Real issues, like your publication's offshore accounts? Or real issues like your editor's text messages about exploiting abuse victims for clicks? The journalist's face went pale. I have those screenshots too. Would you like me to share them? The crowd was now fully invested in the drama, watching Reynolds squirm with each revelation. This is harassment, he tried weakly, but Barron's smile cut through the air. Harassment? Like sending paparazzi to stalk my 12-year-old sibling? Or like publishing my sister's home address? Each point landed like a punch, backed by evidence displayed on Barron's phone. I'm just trying to hold powerful people accountable, Reynolds managed to squeak out, his voice barely audible. Barron leaned down slightly, his imposing frame making the reporter step back again. Accountability? Let's talk about your accountability. He pulled up more tweets. Should we start with your deleted posts about immigrant women, or your burner account, where you mocked speech impediments? Reynolds was now visibly trembling, his planned ambush completely backfiring. The live stream was still running, capturing every moment of his downfall. Barron's next words would be the knockout blow, and everyone in the room could feel it coming. The tension was electric as Barron took one final step forward, ready to deliver the fatal blow to Reynolds' career. Barron's voice cut through the silence like a razor. You know what the real story is here? He gestured to the crowd, now fully captivated. It's not about my mother or my family. It's about a dying industry so desperate for clicks they've abandoned every principle of journalism. Reynolds tried to interject, but his voice failed him. Let me show everyone your morning email, Barron continued, displaying another screenshot. Subject line, urgent, requesting content by 5 p.m. Target Trump family for maximum engagement. The crowd murmured as Reynolds' face turned ashen. Is this what journalism school taught you? Or did you learn this tactic in your viral marketing for failed writers workshop? The public deserves to know, Reynolds attempted one last time, but Barron interrupted with deadly precision. The public deserves to know that you were fired from 3 networks for fabricating sources. His smile was lethal. Or that your anonymous sources are just your burner Twitter accounts. I have the IP addresses to prove it. Melania stepped forward, placing a gentle hand on Barron's shoulder. The contrast between her poise and Reynolds's disheveled state was stark. Perhaps, Mr. Reynolds, she said with her signature accent, you should focus on real journalism instead of creating fake controversies. Her words, delivered with perfect timing, drew chuckles from the crowd. But Barron wasn't done. Since you're so interested in accountability, he continued, let's talk about your network's financial ties to foreign interests. He held up his phone one last time. These documents show your parent company received millions to push specific narratives. Would you like to comment on that? Reynolds' face went from red to white in seconds. The journalist finally broke, turning to flee through the crowd that had formed around them. Don't forget your microphone, Barron called after him, his voice echoing across the room. And Mr. Reynolds, next time you plant an ambush, make sure you're not the one walking into a trap. The crowd erupted in applause as Reynolds nearly ran for the exit, his career in shambles. The video of the encounter exploded online, but not with the hashtag Reynolds had planned. Barron destroys media, and real journalism wins were trending worldwide within hours. The Daily Progressive's website crashed under the traffic as a global audience flocked to witness Reynolds' humiliation. Even rival networks couldn't resist covering the story, with one anchor calling it the most spectacular takedown in media history. Behind the scenes, Reynolds' career imploded spectacularly. His Twitter history, exposed by Barron, revealed years of contradictions and hypocrisy. The Daily Progressive placed him on indefinite leave after their internal investigation confirmed Barron's revelations. Their advertisers pulled out, and their credibility was in free fall. Reynolds' last tweet simply read, "I'm stepping away from journalism to reflect." At the Trump residence later that evening, Melania smiled as she watched her son loosen his tie. "You knew he was coming for us, didn't you?" she asked. Barron grinned, pulling out a binder of meticulously researched documents. 2 weeks ago, when he started following our social media team, he shrugged casually. "So I followed him back. All of his accounts." Donald called from his private plane, having watched the video multiple times. "That's my boy," he said proudly. "You didn't just beat them at their own game. You rewrote the rules." Barron's response was characteristically humble. "Just applying what Harvard taught me about discovery and due diligence." The family shared a smile, knowing he'd done much more than that. The repercussions continued to ripple through the media landscape. Journalism schools began using the story as a case study in ethics and preparation. Reporters, watching their colleagues' downfall, became more cautious about their tactics. The phrase, "Did you Barron Trump this story?" became newsroom slang for thorough fact-checking. The gala's original charitable cause ended up raising record donations, with many citing the drama as their reason for giving. Barron received speaking invitations from top universities about media literacy and digital age accountability, but he declined most of them, preferring to let his actions speak louder than words. After all, as he told his mother that night, sometimes the best defense is a good offense. The story quickly became a cultural touchpoint for the changing dynamics of media accountability. Young journalists started double-checking their social media histories, while veteran reporters found themselves facing renewed scrutiny of their past coverage. Even AOC double-checks her drafts now right before tweeting her daily "Elon broke my latte machine" rant. The era of consequence-free hit pieces was officially over, but Melania's charity work received unprecedented positive coverage in the following months, with even typically hostile outlets treading carefully. The Daily Progressive underwent a major editorial restructuring, publicly committing to fact-based journalism over viral moments. Their new social media policy explicitly banned the term "takedown" from all coverage. Barron returned to his studies at Harvard, where professors now used his methodical dismantling of Reynolds as a case study in both law and journalism classes. His classmates joked that the library's legal research section should be renamed the Barron Trump School of Fact-Checking. The story had transformed him from Trump's tall son to a symbol of intellectual precision. Reynolds, meanwhile, left journalism altogether and ironically found success writing a book about media accountability. In interviews, he admitted that the encounter with Barron had forced him to confront his own biases and ethical shortcuts. His most quoted line became, "I went hunting for a viral moment and instead became a cautionary tale." And that's the story of how one journalist's attempted takedown backfired spectacularly. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Let me know in the comments what you think about Barron's strategic brilliance, and share your own stories of justice served. Until next time.